this happened.
By the way, you're so pro-worker, right? Then why is your ex-staff accusing you of being a union buster then?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'll answer all these, even though, so this is just random.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So.
There's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
What evidence? All right, brother. You've had a nice run. Bye-bye.
Panic hangs up on the guy. Doesn't want to talk about the union busting. Hi, everybody. I'm Hank. I helped start the union at the Young Turks. I'm making a documentary about the union situation at the Young Turks called Tell the Truth, Cenk. I was very closely involved with the origination of the union. And I have a quite a different perspective on this whole story than you might be expecting from some schmuck on YouTube offering up his opinion about this stuff. Check out my channel. There's previews of the documentary. There's 2 large chunks up currently. 80 minutes of amazing editing. You'll be blown away. Plus a whole bunch of other TYT related videos. Look in the playlist section. But this happened. This happened last week. I was actually visiting family back home, and so I caught it all on my phone. Fascinating moment. I think it was a Wednesday. Here it says October 10th, 2024, which was a Thursday. So Cenk decided to take calls. Like, I vaguely remember them taking calls in the very earliest days of TYT. My viewership goes back to before Anna Kasparian joined the company, when Jill Pike was the main person on there. And I was a paying member for quite a while. I ended up working there in 2013. I have this long history with the company, and leading up to me making a documentary about how they deceived their audience about why the union started. So strange, long story going on here. But so they've never done, so it's been a long time since they've done this call thing. And Cenk did this sort of compulsively or impulsively. He wanted to go on and on about Trump, and he's, on his war horse about that, which is fine. And this broadcast was going on for a while. I didn't see it happen live. I was visiting family and stuff. I do check in on the Young Turks live streams a fair amount. I'm looking for them talking either about my situation or other union stories, or comments about how honest and upstanding they are and all that, which they love to tell their audience how honest they are.
It's Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, live from the Polymarket studio here, the most honest show, news show in America. Here we are.
And so this person calls in, and actually this guy who called in is a dude named Hansi. He calls into the Matt Binder program. He's another guy on YouTube.
Hey, Hansi, the moment everyone's been waiting for. That's why people watch this show, not for me, but for Hansi's calls.
Because then they opted to do a 4-hour show, bonus show, to take calls. So I kept calling in and doing, it was way more of a struggle to call in. Honestly, when I got through, I didn't know that he was going to keep me on and actually, have a conversation. That took me by surprise. That's why I just kept saying, you're a fucking...
Yeah, you were on there for a while, man.
Well, the whole point was, even though that call didn't really go anywhere specific, at the end, when I accused him of being a union buster, because there's some ex-employees of his that have been doing, compiling, threads about the evidence of Cenk trying to stop the union back a couple years ago. I know I did that I was all over the place, but I wanted to get that portion out, so that got clipped by a lot of people. Like the one guy that does the threads that worked for TYT, who said that Cenk did stop the union. He compiled the whole thread, but I wanted Cenk to deny it on the air in order for it to really mean something. So at least I got that out of him. But I did like my line about saying that I'm gonna name my band after them, the transphobic pieces of shit, or whatever. I thought that was pretty good. But
Matt Binder also does stuff with Majority Report. Super nice dude. And so I recognized the guy's name when he tweeted it out. So Hansi, his name is Scott. I want to just switch. So this is my summary of the call. We're going to watch the entire call, so you know. And Hansi comes at him with a pretty aggressive attitude. It's kind of a prank format, but the union busting discussion was very on point as far as what Hansi said to him. Scott is his name. So he tweeted this, which is what I saw. So he has the first and is the second tweet. And so I couldn't help myself, and I spent a bunch of time compiling all this information. I've probably know more. I know this story incredibly well. I'm making a documentary about it. I've written articles about it on my Substack, baldontheinside.substack.com. Go check them out. Lots of information, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, documents, emails, tons of crap that Cenk Uygur doesn't want anybody to see. If you're new to the story, go to my Substack and look for the latest article that says the proof. It's the two evidence, and then look for the links to the articles that were written by Huffington Post, Indies Times, New Republic, and for God's sakes, I can just show you here, right here. These articles that were written are a great starting point, and Politico. So go to Substack, find these, read up on it. That way you're not getting my take, because clearly I am close to this. I am biased, obviously. But yeah, we're going to look at the union busting phone call here and then watch some more bullshit that Cenk spewed about the union busting after that. And then we're going to come back to this tweet thread that I wrote, which includes all the evidence underneath this snorkel line here. I don't know why I decided to do the snorkels. That's like a deep dive thing. So we're going to deep dive. We're going to snorkel our way in. And much of this was probably going to end up, or at least this whole project here of the evidence that I posted. Remember, Cenk said there's no evidence. And I just posted all this stuff. Richard Trumka said it's union busting. Come on, man. Come on. The Young Turks, I mean, it's just union busting through and through. But a lot of this also functions to serve as research work for the completion of the film, right? So there's a lot of motivations for me to want to do this stuff besides just wanting to correct the record. Yeah, this is just really interesting, though. Nobody's asked him about his union busting. Scott, our pal, Scott Halal, Hanzi83 on Twitter, has done what nobody in the progressive movement has done, which is confront a union buster on the left. Cenk claims to be on the left, and ask him about it. Put him on the spot publicly. He's been tweeted at about it. I've seen that a bunch. It's been written about a little bit. Those 4 articles are a good source. I'm making a huge stink about it. But yeah, so I have a ton of thoughts and a lot of interesting, well, I think they're interesting anyway. I'm a solo podcaster. Of course, I think I'm interesting. Let me turn off the browser. Okay. So now I have everything loaded up here in DaVinci. This gives me an easier time flying around inside the call. We'll start at the beginning. I don't remember if I clipped this first part. So let's just give it a go. Let's enjoy this journey through this whole thing. And we're going to look at all the evidence as to why Cenk is indeed a union buster, and what does he think he's getting out of gaslighting his audience like this? And we'll let this whole I'll probably pause it a couple times here, but I do want to let it play through to the end of it as well. So.
.com/team. We love you for it and we appreciate it. A couple more. Now let's do a call. Okay, I'm going to mix it up.
So
go back and forth. Hello? Well, no. I feel bad for every person that doesn't get through. Hey there. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hello.
Hey, what's your name, brother?
Earl?
Yep, you're on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that you and Anna are inspiration. I've named my metal band after you guys, man. You guys rock.
Wow. Well, now we literally do, because you named a metal band after us.
Set up. Cenk bit completely on the hook to mix metaphors.
Yeah, it's called birthing people who are fascist pieces of shit. And I think you're a scumbag who's getting paid by the Russians, and you pal around with RFK Jr., who's on Epstein's island. You scumbag.
Okay, so Hanzi hit him with a little setup and then came hitting hard with that. So obviously Cenk knows that this is an aggressive call, unlike most of the nature of the calls that he's gotten before. I think he fashions himself a professional broadcaster. It's probably fair to describe him that way. And so he rolls with it. Cenk takes the punch and laughs about it. I mean, what's he supposed to do? Get all pissed off? That wouldn't do any good. It just gives the troll. That just feeds the troll, right? So here we go.
Okay, we got our first crank caller.
Crank.
Woo! We're on the board. I love it. Okay. So, but wait, I'm trying to understand. Are you a Democrat who thinks I'm pro-Trump?
No, I think you're just a piece of shit that is going on the fascist side, and you know where it's gonna go. You're an insider who pretends not to be an insider, but we all know you're an insider anyways, bro. You pretend to be anti-establishment, but your mainstream is just as mainstream media is. So you're full of shit, and so is Anna Kasparian. And enjoy your forward leaning to the right.
Okay, that's look, that's all wonderful, and you're a terrific angry caller, and I appreciate you. But I'm still trying to understand whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I get that you think I'm a fascist and a piece of shit, right? Is he still on? Are you a Democrat or Republican?
I'm here. I'm here.
Are you a Democrat or Republican?
I'm neither.
Okay,
So the blue here, the blue marker at the bottom of the screen, that's where we get into the union busting stuff. I did just notice that someone wrote, "We got a Vanguard listener, LOL."
So it's just a random crank call. Okay, all right.
It's not a crank call. I think you're a douchebag.
It's not a crank call. I think you're a douchebag.
It is.
Someone wrote, whoever wrote that then gave Cenk $2 saying the same thing. We got a Vanguard listener.
I have no idea which direction you're coming from, so I don't know how to answer.
So why would you hang out with an Epstein Island enthusiast like RFK Jr.?
Okay, so now you're against RFK Jr. So for a second there, I thought you might be an independent, but you're definitely not an independent, a Democrat, or Republican. The one thing you know is I'm a douchebag, but that's where we got stuck. Okay, I don't know what you're for, brother.
How do you feel about? By the way, you're so pro worker, right? Then why is your ex-staff accusing you of being a union buster then?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'll answer all these, even though so this is just
so okay. Ex-staff accusing you of being a union buster. I'm not sure if Hansi is aware of my project. I'm not sure if other people that have accused Cenk of being a union buster. I am not here to say this to take issue with Hansi's call at all, but I'm not accusing Cenk of being a union buster. He's a union buster. He attempted union busting. I don't. To me, there's nothing alleged or accusatory about it. It's like a fact. Like he hired anti-worker law firms. He had 2 NLRB cases. The other tactics, all documented in these 4 articles, none of which the company has refuted, might seem so familiar because, as NLRB filings would later reveal, the Young Turks hired 2 anti-worker management side law and consultancy firms. Since the home of progressives is largely member-funded, it stands to reason that the audience deserves to know how much they spent on union busting, if any. How much member money did TYT send to these anti-worker law firms? Do they even have a right to know? Perhaps not. He conducted an aggressive union busting campaign. We're going to go through all the evidence, but we could chalk this up to opinion if we're going to be the most possible generosity we could muster up here in terms of what constitutes union busting. I guess in that sense, maybe there's room for someone to do aggressive union busting and then simply insist that that's not technically union busting, maybe, but Cenk is going to get into some of the logic of why he's not a union buster here, which is also, put on your waders. Okay. And for those of you that aren't cool, those are big rubber boots. Okay. Put them on, the ones that go up to your chest, because you're going to about to be wading through some big old piles of bullshit. But let's get going first. I didn't mean to interrupt for so long. Here we go.
just random.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So
there's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
what evidence? All right, brother, you've had a nice run. Bye-bye. Okay, so, but let me address that because I know I'm going to get crank calls when you do random callers, and I know that they're going to try to bring up stuff. Wow, oh wow. So
so Cenk has not talked about the union busting. This is the most he has spoken about it since it happened. He had never spoke about it while it happened either. He referred to it in the video announcing ratification of the contract, which took 18 months, which itself is kind of a union busting tactic to try to like wear out your union as you negotiate. Plus, you're not required to fulfill any obligations to them. You don't have to pay those union rates until the contract's ratified. That's a side point. He referred to it as a bumpy start and then says, but it had nothing to do with how we treated workers there or workers here or something like that.
So it was relatively straightforward and easy. Our relationship got off to a bumpy start in the beginning, but that was due to a lot of different reasons having nothing to do with how we treat employees here. But
not true. The union was specifically about how workers were being treated, and it was not a bumpy start. That was a misleading way to characterize his relationship with this union. I did also find him saying like a year ago, maybe something about like, when I was running for Congress, I got raked over the coals for stuff that was basically made up. Like he basically was denying that anything bad had happened.
Yeah, look, I get frustrated at what giant companies get away with all the time. So you have a small company like us. When I ran for office, people made a giant deal out of like things that were basically invented, okay? And then you look at a giant company like Marvel, they got cry rooms. If you have a room dedicated for people crying at the office because you're working them to the ground and creating so much stress on them that they break out in tears in the middle of the office regularly, so that you have to assign a room to it, you might have some workplace issues. Yet big companies get away with stuff like that all the time, right? So our staff here, in terms of the stage crew, the editors, graphics, etc.,
doesn't even get a cry room.
We don't need a cry room. There's no need for it. We're already IATSE, right? And we get attacked in the press. Oh yeah, like you guys are anti-union. We have a union. IATSE's been here for years, right? And so meanwhile, Marvel is gigantic. They make billions from their movies, and still no union. They got cry rooms. They're paying, low wages. What the hell's going on?
Not that he was being confronted about it. He sort of volunteered that sentence. It was just like one of those few times where I was like, oh, I know he's like, that was. So this is the most he's spoken about it. And he's about to go into his reasoning for why he's not a union buster. Like I said, put on your bullshit goggles, because they're about to get covered, and activate the little wipers on your bullshit goggles. So you're gonna need those. You're gonna need those.
Guys, we busted the union so hard here that there's a union here. Edwin, are you in the union? Edwin's in the union. Look at that. Oh, that's so weird. John, you in the union?
Yes, I am.
Huh. They appear to be entirely unbusted.
Classy. Put a couple of guys in the union on the spot to force them into your little scheme. Real classy there, Cenk.
So guys, this is a thing that happened 4 years ago. And they, oh my God, they're the union busters. We had, union came in, IATSE. We had negotiations. It was the most lovely, peaceful, amicable negotiations you've ever seen in your life. We have great healthcare here. We have
I just want to point this out. The comments, this is why I recorded it like this. Someone says, was that Hansi from Howard Stern? So yeah, I guess Hansi used to call into the Howard Stern show back in the day. I don't know the whole history of that, but it's funny that people are recognizing him from that. And then someone here says, I like Cenk, but he is a union buster. So even in the comments, people are pushing back.
really good benefits.
Sorry, I'm just got to rewind a little bit. He says they have great healthcare and really good benefits. Well, as if you've been watching this podcast, but if you're just finding this clip, find the other clip from this podcast. I talk about that extensively, how I didn't have health insurance working for Cenk under two different classifications. I was a part-time worker. Sorry, I was an independent contractor while working full-time hours, full-time video editing, taking the same, working along people who were classified differently than I was, taking a role from someone, that's why the position was open, who was also classified as a full-time regular employee. So when I showed up, it was now an independent contractor job for zero benefits. That's why we started the union, because Cenk uses classification to deny workers benefits like health insurance and paid days off. That's me. I decided to wake up the union drive, but during that time, I was complaining because I'm not a quiet person. You could probably guess, and I met with management, expressed my concerns, my grievances, hoped that they would fix it. Instead of fixing it, they changed my classification to part-time temporary employee. So I was no longer an independent contractor, didn't have to send invoices. Now I'm on payroll, but I still got zero benefits. Nothing. No benefits at all. They kept my Labor Day money. They kept my 4th of July money. I took a holiday, took sick, I took 20, over that whole time period of 12 months, there were 20 days of unpaid wages that I would have been paid if I were classified properly from the beginning. And that's why we unionized, among other reasons. This, what I just told you, is the story he's afraid of his audience learning. He does not want his audience to tell you or to find out the actual reasons why his workers unionized. It's a crazy story. Check out the film. It's in the description if you're brand new to this. Okay. Backing up a little bit. Great benefits and great health care. First of all, the benefits aren't that fucking great. The 401k contribution, the employer contribution, 0. Call that good? Get out of here, man.
Really good benefits. And then we had our union. So, and the thing is, everyone has different version of me in their mind, right? Based on whatever crazy crap that they saw online. So people who, I mean, that guy's totally out of control in 1,000 different ways, right? He just wanted to say every negative thing in the world. I still literally don't know which side he's on or what he's for, other than just being angry. And then I thought it was fairly amusing overall. But for people who actually think that we busted a union and there's no union here, yeah, I could see why they'd be angry, but it's not true. And so, I gave up caring about that stuff because there's literally millions of people who believe terrible things about me that aren't even anywhere near true. So what am I gonna do? Fucking internet, you know what I'm saying?
Fucking internet.
Okay, so all right, let's try another caller.
So he says this.
It's fairly amusing overall, but for people who actually think that we busted a union and there's no union here.
There it is. He's trying to set the terms of the logic loop that he wants his audience to get trapped in. This is gaslighting. For people that think we busted a union and there's no union, he's trying to say that union busting is defined as stopping a union. As if to say, like, well, how could I be a murderer? The guy I stabbed lived. That doesn't, you can't call me a murderer because the guy with all the knife wounds is alive. How could I be a fisherman? I'm not catching any fish. Do you still get to call yourself a fisherman if you don't catch fish like I am when I go fishing because I suck at it? I love doing it, but I suck at it. Yeah, you're still a fisherman. You're a union buster if you tried union busting. So he's very cleverly, and I think it's pretty transparent if you have any kind of suspicion or, you know, any kind of notion of this at all, unless you're totally like have the wool pulled over your eyes, that this is just straight up gaslighting. I'm hesitant to say it's straight up lying, even though I absolutely could and would be totally fine to do that, I think. I'm calling him a liar over the reasons the union started. That's what Tell the Truth Cenk is all about. But in this case, you could, like I said earlier, being very, very generous, he could say it's his opinion or that he uses a different definition of union busting than other people. So we're going to see all the things that they did. Okay. I have all the evidence laid out, but I'm going to play this again.
For people who actually think that we busted a union and there's no union here.
So that's the bullshit. This is where you need to turn the wipers on your bullshit goggles right now. That busting a union there means no union. That's not what happened. That's not at all how anybody who has any notion of this stuff understands it and would describe it.
Yeah, I can see why they'd be angry, but it's not true.
And that part, this part here, yeah, I can see why they'd be angry. So he's accepting that a union buster should receive anger, right? He's accepting that that's a thing worthy of derision, of scorn. And I've been making the argument that, you know, we all love Shawn Fain for his Donald Trump is a scab t-shirt that he pulled out at the DNC. We don't like scabs, right? Union, lefties, labor friends. We all get that scabs are someone you should aim your ire at, right? I don't want anybody to get hurt, nothing like that, you know. But in the history of unionizing, the history of labor strikes, the history of this stuff, scabs are bad guys. I can make a case for the economic deprivations that drive workers to engage in sort of divisive things because scabs are still struggling people. You know, I'm not going to turn off my compassion just because of that. But we hate scabs. Who's worse than scabs? Who's worse than a fucking scab? A union buster, by far. There's two classifications. There's like, this is like chess. There's the pawns. There's the rooks and the kings and the queens. And then like, so here we are. The king is the union buster, and the union busting consultant is the queen. They do all the dirty work. And so Cenk is acknowledging.
Yeah, I can see why they'd be angry, but it's not true. And so, I gave up caring about that.
Sorry, I want to get off this Da Vinci stuff here real quick. As I have in my TYT related video section here, Cenk is acknowledging that you should be angry, or that people would rightfully have some questions if it turns out he's a union buster. Of course, he says he's not. And so I don't know why I decided to show you this, but does David Sirota know Cenk Uygur is a union buster? In this video, he sits. Oh fuck! God damn it! Yeah. So this is. That's just me. It's my stupid show. He sits down and talks with Cenk, and they talk about paid family leave and what the Democratic priority should be.
If they don't do paid family leave, they never meant anything. I think that's.
Should it matter? Should David Sirota? And I'm not trying to call out David Sirota. I have a ton of respect for David Sirota. Hire me, David. I could be. I'm really good at video editing and podcast editing. Like I'll ever get hired by anybody. David Sirota, I believe, believes his principles. Should Cenk's peer group learn and care that he's a union buster? He's done a great job memory holing this whole thing. Shawn Astin is another guy. That's Frodo's buddy, Samwise Gamgee. Becomes a big hunk by the end. He gains some confidence. He goes up to the lady, they talk, and then they have babies. Right? Lord of the Rings. We've all seen it. He's a good dude. Big union guy. Now, again, I'm not calling out Shawn Astin, but he sat down with TYT. Should he know that Cenk is a union buster? John Fugelsang was at the TYT studio. Should it matter? Should people be informed? I mean, there's bigger battles in the world going on. There's far worse things happening in the planet right now. But within this little sphere, David Sirota is a union guy. Shawn Astin is in a union. John Fugelsang is in a union. I want to see some solidarity from people in unions calling out Cenk for being a union buster, as he agrees.
Yeah, I can see why they'd be angry, but it's not true.
But it's not true. So, okay.
By the way,
we'll play it back in Twitter. All right, we're going to go back over to Twitter. All right, so here's Scott's call. We're going to click on this, click play, listen to Scott, everybody. Go, Hansi, go!
For a second there, I thought...
Skipping ahead.
How do you feel about, by the way, you're so pro-worker, right? Then why is your ex-staff accusing you of being a union buster then?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'll answer all these, even though, so this is just random.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So,
there's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
What evidence? All right, brother, you've had a nice.
What evidence? All right, so I write, since I am very close to this story, I'll refrain from saying Cenk is lying when he says he's not a union buster. Technically, that's his opinion. At best, it's extremely dishonest. Observe the evidence below and decide for yourself. A little background, then snorkel time. Quick sidebar. Skip to my posts before this article for links from legit journalists written at the Time, HuffPo, Indies Times, The New Republic, Politico. I already showed you those. That's these right here. Okay, so definitely go look those up, or go to baldontheinside.substack.com and you could find the links right there. Those articles are very good and they're very detailed. Cenk is interviewed in them. I'm interviewed in the New Republic article, and TYT has not refuted any of the claims in any of those articles, including the Politico article that has a link to his emails, which you can read, which are also available right here on my Substack. These are Cenk's emails where he sweats about being known as a union buster to the workers. He sent these emails. We don't have the full emails, but he sent these to unionizing workers. He wrote, "I don't know where I go to get my reputation back. Some portion of people will now forever know me as a union buster, and much worse, as a boss who treats his employees poorly." I'm here to confirm that both of those statements are absolutely true. When you have someone working 40-hour weeks and you call them part-time so that you don't have to give them benefits, that is a profoundly disrespectful way to treat somebody. It is deeply unethical, and that's what they did in my case. And that's among the reasons why we unionized. And these emails are filled with union busting tactics, like you're going to hurt other workers. They're really interesting. They're really interesting to read. So That said, I have no problem calling Cenk a liar about why and when the unionizing started. I played a central role in its second attempt. Organizing began in 2018, froze, woke up in 2019, and am an original source. I was there. Snorkel arrow. Cenk told his audience that the union was a political ploy by his establishment foes to harm his congressional campaign. In fact, it was disrespectful and exploitative working conditions. He lied to prevent his audience from learning the real reasons workers secretly unionized. Oops, forgot the snorkel arrow on that one snorkel arrow. I am documenting the story in my documentary, Tell the Truth, Cenk, pinned written pieces and talking about it on my podcast. That's happening right now. So I give reasons here. I say, and I actually, this tweet thread is very long. This is the one I actually quote tweet Cenk here and talk about all the reasons why, all right, let's just jump into it real quick. We're not going to go down. But he wrote, the powerful always feel entitled to lord over the powerless. And the thing they hate most of all is if you point out their power, because they want to keep up the mirage of how they are the good, moral people, and the powerless are the ones you have to be concerned about. I couldn't help myself. I haven't quote tweeted Cenk or retweeted him or tweeted him directly. I'm not tweeting at him like, hey, fucker, why are you not doing that? But I have been retweeting stuff where he's in there. So like this stuff must be, he follows me on Twitter. A bunch of TYT people do. Anyway, so I wrote here, this is precisely why I'm making Tell the Truth, Cenk. 1. Cenk uses classification to deny a worker benefits. 2. Workers secretly unionize to combat this, plus other reasons. 3. Cenk lies to his audience about why his workers unionized. 4. Cenk's mirage upheld. It's exactly what he's writing about in that thread. So now here's the evidence. Hopefully you brought your nose clips. It's snorkel time. As a reminder.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So,
there's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
what evidence? All right, brother, you've had a nice run.
What evidence? Okay, buddy. All right. Like the hubris on this fucking guy to think that he can just make those statements and that nobody would point it out. So here's the evidence. First, I wanted the workers to have their voice heard. TYT union started a signature drive detailing their boss's union busting. Read their words. And just to be clear, I want people to know I was laid off 5 weeks before the union came forward, so I'm not representing the union. And these are the images. So they did an actionnetwork.org petition. Tell the Young Turks to recognize their crew's union. Target, Cenk Uygur, founder of the Young Turks. These are the words from the union, from TYT union. A majority of us on the Young Turks production and post-production employees have voted to form a union by signing union authorization cards. On February 12th, we officially requested that the company recognize our decision to go union. Rather than living up to the network's progressive values and honoring our choice, Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks, Inc. are fighting against us with age-old union-busting tactics. There's the word, union busting. Including attempting to force a do-over election on the company's terms. Instead of card check, they wanted to have a expedited arbitrator supervised election in the little conference room outside Cenk's office at a date later to be determined so that they could buy themselves time in order to conduct a union busting campaign. 2, holding a tense captive audience meeting and pressuring us to not support a union. They're hyperlinked to the Huffington Post article here by Dave Jameson. Very well written piece. This will give you a lot of information. February 24th. This is the first of the 4 articles. 3, firing a union supporter for creating a hostile work environment. The hyperlink goes to In These Times by Hamilton Nolan, who was just on the Majority Report. March 5th, 2020. The Young Turks union fight gets nastier with charges of retaliatory firing and withholding raises. So Cenk doesn't seem to think that withholding raises, firing people, captive audience meetings, which are now illegal in the state of California, forcing a do-over by rejecting card check, none of that tracks as union busting to him. To finish, I'm going to be saying versions of that sentence for the next 20 minutes. Just get used to it. So here's more from the TYT workers. We love this company and its mission of providing a platform for progressive voices. It's why we work here. But we think TYT should live by its principles. Join us in demanding an end to this senseless union busting campaign. It really was senseless. Like, for all the fucking Sturm and Drang that came up out of this, the only entity that benefited was, and again, I don't know what TYT paid the union busting law firms. We're going to see more about that in a second. But, like, they got paid for their work. I mean, I doubt they were pro bono. I don't know what they did as far as this union busting, but they were representing them on the NLRB case. Both of them. Cases, I should say. So, their goal was 12,800. They only got 10,166. Boo. So that's the TYT union workers. Exhibit 1. IATSE detailed the Young Turks' tactics in this thread. They refused to recognize. I'll just click on it. So here's IATSE's thread. It says, thread, an ongoing list of the tired union busting tactics being used by the Young Turks. Sign TYT unions petition and tell management their senseless union busting campaign must end. Seeing this word union busting coming up a bunch, aren't we? This was on March 11th, 2020 when they tweeted this out. So here's the tactics TYT is using. IATSE says, 1, the Young Turks refuse to recognize TYT union without a do-over election on the company's terms. 2, holding a tense captive audience meeting and pressuring production and post-production workers not to support a union at TYT. 3, firing a union supporter for creating a hostile work environment. That's in quotes. 4, holding annual wage increases and bonuses hostage while I do that sometimes. 4, holding annual wage increases and bonuses hostage while workers pursued union recognition. We were forced to file unfair labor practice charges for these 2. 5, we'll get back to that. 5, the Young Turks attempted to gerrymander the group of employees by excluding some coworkers from coverage in the union. Straight out of the union busting playbook. And now click on union busting playbook. This just gives you a bunch of stuff about the way unions work. So, common bluffs. This is a bunch of bullshit. Having a union will ruin our family work environment. Please give us another chance. Cenk does stuff like that in the emails. Joining a union may involve you in violence. I don't think nobody ever talked about violence. Thank God we don't like violence. The union can force you to strike, but when you strike, they won't support you. Union is only interested in your money. Yeah, so you get a bunch of stuff. You will lose your job. Well, somebody did lose their job from this one, which is just rotten, man. All right. Back to the thread here. So that's IATSE tweeting that out. Exhibit number 3. I'm not going to do exhibits for each one of these, but because there's just this list goes on and on and on. From the third post of that IATSE thread, it says, we were forced to file unfair labor practice charges for these 2. One produced this notice, a response to violating Section 7 of the NLRA, which hung on TYT's wall for 60 days. Does this count as evidence? Go ahead and pause it and read it. And this is customized. These aren't just like a form letter. So it gives it workers information. They were required to hang this on their wall in a very clear spot for 60 days. It says that down here. This notice must remain posted for 60 consecutive days from the date of posting and must not be altered, defaced, or covered. So here we go. It says, we will not interfere with, restrain, or coerce you in the exercise of the above rights. And you can read the above rights there about your right to join or assist a union. And to act together with other employees for your benefit and protection. Like I said, I didn't have health insurance until the last 2 months of a 14-month, like that was the total time. So I was unionizing because I felt very unsafe without health insurance. We will not promulgate, maintain, or enforce a rule requiring that you bring your complaints only to management. So you're not supposed to just require that workers are required to tell management about everything. That's like dictator stuff, because workplaces are dictatorships, which is why people like Cenk love them. Democracy is a threat to their power. It changes the way leverage works. We will not threaten you with unspecified reprisals if you choose to be represented by or support a union. In the Huffington Post article, let me search for the phrase throw. Here we go. His talk, at times emotional, the staffer said, with Uygur throwing his papers to the ground at one point and chastising an employee. seemed to contradict the progressive worker-first ethos that TYT broadcasts to its millions of lefty followers. Jack Gerard, who is acting as the company's chief operating officer as Uygur runs for Congress in California, told the staff that they were not discouraging unionization. Jack Gerard, before he worked for the Young Turks, something like 9 or 10 years ago, he's been with TYT for quite a while, was a health insurance executive for Kaiser Permanente and I want to say Blue Shield of California. He had 12 years, and before that was other kind of consulting and stuff. This is all from his LinkedIn. I don't think it's public anymore, but it was, and that's why it's in the film. TYT's number 2 is a guy who has the ethics of a health insurance executive. That's this Jack guy, because he's a health. That's a. I don't know. I'm not sure people are going to care about that, but that's just one of those weird details. We will not ask you about employee support for a union, because the bosses have all the power in these situations. They're still have the ability to kind of threaten just by the fact that they can fire you, that you can be let go. They can make your workplace an unsafe and unhealthy, stress. They can crank up the ways that you experience stress in your workplace. The power imbalance is inherent in every single interaction. We will not in any like or related manner interfere with your rights under Section 7 of the Act, the NLRA. Here's one that quotes TYT, and this is pointed out in the film specifically. We will rescind the rule we promulgated in the following statement to employees. I ask that you all bring your concerns directly to management rather than using Slack or emails that get sent to broad audiences. And we will notify employees in writing that this has been done. So they were literally using their power to prevent their own workers from the potential risk that the company would face if the truth got out. This is the Young Turks. Here's a clip from Tell the Truth, Cenk, about the NLRB notice we just looked at. Are they as cool with union busting as their silence suggests? Speaking of cowardly silence, back here in 2022, this notice from the NLRB informing workers of their rights showed up in my mailbox as part of a settlement agreement related to the firing of a worker from the bargaining unit. They're required to physically mail former employees, email current employees, and post this in a prominent location for 60 days. A released document from a FOIA request indicates it was placed on the wall-facing kitchen and water cooler. As a daily kitchen user, I can assure you that's a heavily trafficked spot. Only marijuana would have missed it. Look close. That last one? It quotes management's rule that concerns be brought directly to management rather than via Slack or emails that get sent to broad audiences. They were worried the truth would get out and use the leverage they have over workers to keep the audience in the dark. Secrecy favors the powerful. For 60 days, evidence that a prominent progressive CEO violated labor laws sat on the wall by the coffee machine and nary a peep from any of the journalists or hosts at TYT. Themselves literally on the other side of that wall telling a camera about employers who abuse workers and violate labor laws. So every single of these stories, if you look closely enough at the dates, those are all within that 60-day period. So the Young Turks covers union violations. They cover companies doing malfeasance in terms of the way their workers are organizing. And in order to do that, and I'll show you, I'm not sure exactly where let me back it up 5 seconds. So I'm not sure exactly where they posted the thing, but if you look behind Cenk here, okay, I went too far back. All right. Yeah. Okay. That a prominent so you could see things posted up on the wall behind him, like the government, like OSHA poster stuff. Nobody ever really looks at that crap, but it's in a prominent spot. This is the Kachet. Progressive CEO violated labor law. Yeah, all this crap behind him. So I'm guessing it was somewhere along this wall. Maybe it was somewhere in the kitchen. I don't know, but that would be my bet. Which is also why I placed it. Sat on the wall by there. So you grab your coffee, you go into the room to do your show about some other company doing union busting, and you walk past a notice that says notice
Coffee
to employees.
machine and
So, yeah, there's more to it. All right. Well, you can see we're at the NLRB website. We're going to do a search. We'll go cases and decisions. Oh, God. Case search. A little bit slow. This is actually really fascinating to dig into some of these, filings. Almost most government sites, but like a lot of government sites have documents that are public records that you can search and stuff. The National Archives is really interesting. I found Cenk's FEC filings that showed that in 2008 he made his income was $327,000. So that's interesting. That's in the doc somewhere. So here we are, NLRB search, the Young Turks. Oops, I capitalized the U. Let's hit enter. See what comes up. You can do this yourself. Make a TikTok of you doing this. Make a short. Make a reel. Make an X video. See, this. Why would you rename that website? Little slow. We working on it. Got to send that money to those governments that blow up other people. 2 case results for the Young Turks. Interesting. Very interesting. Let's open up both. We'll just tab open here. So here's one. Both are closed. You can read it here. The allegations are concerted activities, retaliation, discharge, and discipline. I believe this one is related to the withholding raises and bonuses. This law firm right here, Mitchell, Silverberg, and Knupp. This is a fascinating one. This is TYT's law firm. Search Google. Click on it. This is in the film, by the way. This is who they are, what we do. There's a labor section. Click on that. Labor, litigation, and counseling. And full practice. What's that? Weird. Young Turks uses a union avoidance law firm? Like these highly paid ghoul factories. They aren't really a factory. They're more of a ghoul assembly. These highly paid ghoul. Why am I thinking of putting grapes? I'm thinking of like gluing grapes together. Okay, I'm getting distracted here. These highly paid anti-worker management side law firms that help companies avoid unions and bust unions and negotiate do negotiations for them on their behalf and win cases and do this arbitration stuff. But if you notice closely, and you can go to the history of this company, they're very proud of it. They have this more fancier site or fancier page on this website talking about them representing the AMPTP, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. Ever heard of that? Remember when the IATSE actions were happening with the writer strike, the actors on strike, SAG, Writers Guild, and the opposition to them was these dudes, they cut trees down to make more sunlight outside their big buildings. They were doing all kinds of shady stuff. One of them was quoted as saying, "We will let them starve out. We're going to wait this out till they start losing their homes." That's the AMPTP. The Young Turks uses the same law firm that the AMPTP uses. What evidence, Cenk says. Back to the NLRB. Here's the other case. This one's a bit bigger. This is the one related to the firing of somebody. Under allegations, we have a bunch. Discharge, including layoff and refusal to hire, not salting. Interrogation, including polling. Discharge of supervisor, Parker Rob Chevrolet. Concerted activities, retaliation, discharge, discipline. Coercive statements, threats, promises of benefits. Coercive rules. Huh. That's kind of interesting, doesn't it? Throwing his papers to the ground, chastising an employee. Coercive rules. Right here. Does this not count as evidence for Cenk's union busting? People say that there's a gas leak at TYT. It turns out it's gaslight. There's more. There's so much more. The Young Turks union busting also included a major breach of journalistic ethics. This isn't necessarily evidence. I could probably burn past this. If you're familiar with my shit, you're familiar with this stuff right now. But they told their audience that the union originated as a ploy by Cenk's political opponents. They did this without fact checking. This is an outrageous lie that has never been retracted. And so I just have some of the stuff that came up regarding them doing that. We'll just jump past that since that's not technically evidence of the union busting. It's just evidence that they didn't respect their audience enough to tell them the truth about why their workers secretly unionized. Yeah, so here I write, TYT host and Cenk himself walked past that notice from the NLRB for 60 days and no one deemed it worthy of coverage as a news item. Other union stories at the company, yes, but the Young Turks audience was kept in the dark about Cenk's behavior. Here's another. Here are the two cases. I didn't link them, but AMPTP. Yeah, so this is sort of the same stuff we just looked at. These are those. MeansTV, our friend Sam Sachs, a guy I'd hope to get in touch with at some point. Because there's probably like one of the few places on the planet that'll hire me. That might hire me, I should say. So they actually covered the hiring of a union busting attorney. Credit to a progressive outlet. I don't know if they'd call themselves progressives, but like no progressive outlet covered any of this. But of course, our friends over at MeansTV did, and you should go support them.
We got the best bumpers in the business there. We got a carpet wall and the best bumpers in the business. What more?
Get to the point.
Want? So, 2 charges were filed with the National Labor Relations Board this week related to the Young Turks unionizing efforts. It's been a bad month for Cenk Uygur. He got smoked in his congressional race, 4th place, got 5% of the vote, and then he got busted busting a union at his media company. The charges were brought by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, IATSE, which is working to organize the production and editing crews at the Young Turks. The network is charged with unlawful terminations and punishing concerted activity. Twitter user at Brandon Magner flagged who the Young Turks have hired to represent them. Turns out it's a notorious union buster. Some guy named Gregory Hessinger at a law firm, Mitchell, Silderberg, and Knupp. Hessinger boasts on his profile on the company website that he's successfully defended a network-owned major market television station against high-profile wrongful discharge. Cool dude. He successfully defended a major advertiser against unfair labor practice charges, successfully defended a public transportation company against unfair labor practice charges, represented major regional sports network and successfully defeating 2 separate union organizing drives. Okay, this guy sucks. This guy sucks. Cenk, just recognize the union, dummy.
Cenk, all you had to do was recognize the fucking union, man. You have an idea how much trouble you would have saved for everybody? I don't have to make this fucking movie. Although by that point, it had already been, completely hosed with my working conditions, and I definitely wasn't going to go quiet about that crap. Sorry, I just don't work that way. I'm going to take a break, feed the cat, edit. Okay, cat's been fed. We can resume our life. TYT Union tweeted out questions about how much money Cenk was sending to these high-priced union-busting lawyers. They wrote, "We love TYT and its vital platform for progressive voices. That's why we work here. Nobody wants to bankrupt it. But recognizing our right to a voice at work costs nothing. How much of the $2 million TYT is raising will go to high-priced union-busting lawyers?" Great question. As I wrote, Cenk should disclose this information to his audience, the people who fund him, or at least explain why they don't deserve to know. Like if I was still a paying member of the Young Turks and I found out about this and I had some kind of copacetic, is that the right word? If I had some sort of shared affinity with the principles that I'm supporting with my money and I found this out, I'd be like, wait a minute, how much of my money did you give to these scoundrels, union busting lawyers? Like I remember, as we talked about, union busting lawyers and consultants are just the second of the worst next to union busters themselves. And then Scabs are somewhere below that on that hierarchy. Does the audience have a right to know? Should they be told how much money Cenk Uygur sends to anti-worker law firms. Does the Home of Progressives want to disclose that it uses the same law firm that represents the AMPTP? Maybe there's a case to be made for why these are separate items. Their principles that they profess to the world are different than the way they operate their business. Maybe there's a perfectly reasonable case for that. Like in my case, having a guy work under multiple classifications so as to get zero benefits, perhaps there's a defense for that sort of thing. I had to go to sleep and I said, go read these articles again. So I came back. Still more with the snorkel bubbles. I was very impressed with the idea that I would stack them up. This took so many extra taps. What an annoying thing. So here's more evidence. TYT Union reveals the NLRB paperwork relating to their boss, Cenk, withholding money they'd earned. A very common union busting tactic. Dude literally denied workers their own money. It was their money. And he had it. And he said, you don't get your money until you submit to my will. I'm paraphrasing. But they link to this. This is Cenk speaking here in these Times article. He said, if IATSE doesn't object to TYT giving the raises, we would be more than happy to do so. Then they included the filing against the Young Turks. This is United States of America National Labor Relations Board charge against employer. Do not write in this space, it says. So, I mean, just look at it. You can pause it. Streaming media, production company. Cenk Uygur, CEO. They redacted stuff, which is good. On behalf of the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees. Basis of the charge set forth a clear and concise statement of the facts constituting the alleged unfair labor practices. Within the 6 months immediately preceding the firing of this charge, the above-named employer, by and through its agents, violated Section 8A1 of the Act by withholding predetermined wage increases and bonuses in response to a union's demand for voluntary recognition. By the above and other acts, the above-named employer has interfered with, restrained, and coerced employees in the exercise of their rights guaranteed them by Section 7 of the Act. Is that evidence? Cenk? Wharton Business School should be humiliated by this guy. And now I think Columbia Law School should be fucking humiliated by this guy if he doesn't think that that's evidence. It's not. He knows what it is. He knows what he did. It's that he doesn't respect his audience. Because you don't respect an audience if you're lying to them like that. Such bullshit, dude. 5 weeks and one NLRB case later, the wages and bonuses were released and by the millionaire boss of TYT. Cenk's intimidation campaign wasn't over, but this was a rightful win for the workers. TYT Union said, we are pleased to announce that TYT management has agreed to stop withholding our bonuses and raises hostage while we pursue unionization. They've informed us we'll get them next week. 5 weeks overdue. So COVID was kicking in around now. I'm not sure. At some point in this process, the TYT went remote. And for a lot of those jobs, like producer and video editor and stuff, like you can do the work remotely and you can even film a lot remotely. To their credit, that's the right thing to do. But they had to go into work. Like my friends had to go into the same building before they went remote, right? So they had to go into work and still do their jobs while Cenk and Anna are spreading lies about them outside of the company. And while NLRB cases are being filed, while they're withholding their raises. Imagine going into your job, and your boss is sitting in the other room and he has the power to release you, to give you a raise and a bonus that you've been promised, and he's not. That is, come on, man. I don't know why this post is unavailable. That's kind of weird. Okay, hang on. All right. So, to continue my thread here, TYT Union used the phrase union busting. Again, is it marshaled support for their fight against Cenk's attempt to deny them their fundamental right to collectively organize? That hashtag is right. Union busting is disgusting. And then when I click on it, I can see the tweet. So it's a tweet from just happened? It jumped me way down. Okay, here it is. So they're replying to somebody. IHSASANELE. Okay, they're replying to somebody. You're one of the bold progressive voices who understands the struggles of regular working people. Can you pledge your support of our fight against union busting at TYT? I included that one because they use the word union busting. That's pretty much all I did was just go through their whole thing and just get everything that says union busting. I corrected myself as it marshaled. Sorry. Typing while surfing. I made it up. I wasn't actually surfing. I was waiting for my mom's shrimp to defrost. She served it to me with cheese. All right, so then I got back to a nice Saturday. I finally had time to work on it again. Remember, I'm destroying my relationships with my family over all this. Room temperature shrimp? It sucks. Shawn Fain, UAW Chief of Staff Chris Brooks, Chactivist, CHACTIVIST, recaps Cenk's union busting. His recap includes Cenk Uygur refuses to voluntarily recognize the union. Cenk Uygur admits workers who support the union have been denied promised raises and bonuses. An outspoken pro-union worker was fired by Cenk Uygur after the CEO returned to work from failed congressional bid. And this dude here is Chief of Staff for Shawn Fain. I would love it if these big unions got a hold of my project. President of the AFL-CIO, Liz Shuler, accurately describes Cenk's behavior as lying for claiming to be on the side of workers. I came to this understanding too when I worked full-time for Cenk for zero benefits under multiple classifications. Here's Liz's tweet. Loving this article by Grim Kim. She wrote the New Republic one. A boss who claims to be on the workers' side but won't recognize its union is lying, she writes. And Grim Kim wrote, thanks so much, Liz. Very cool. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for your support. Here's a good spot for this excellent montage by the MPEG 700 of Cenk claiming to be for workers and their right to organize. He doesn't mean a word of it. Warning, maximum hypocrisy. Bonus, Hasan the Hun is in it. Trying to get Hasan's attention. I used to edit some of his videos. He should, recognize that there's this effort going on here at the company where he emerged. The mud from which his Uruk-hai was born. That's a Lord of the Rings talk there. But like this is literally the labor that built his career. The people in this union. Studio techs, graphics, and editors. Especially the one editor that was his primary. Person is so talented. And he should write her big old check for several $100,000. Do it, Hasan. I don't have a beef with Hasan, but I do think this is the kind of thing that his audience would care about, as well as he could have some interesting commentary on. I just jumped to a different thread I had written, but I want you to see another reason I think Hasan would be interested in this story.
I wanted to move to Los Angeles anyway. And my uncle was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to hire someone and skirt some serious like labor regulations because his family.
This guy here, Will Neff, then tells a quick anecdote about how when Hasan was working at TYT, and I was there at this time, like 2013, 2014, and he was doing sales or something. I didn't really know what his full job was or anything, but Will Neff then talks about how Haas would work up like a deal and was about to get a commission, and then like Cenk would swoop in and take the commission away from him.
No longer are you doing sales. You're going to do Facebook.
Well, that's because your uncle was letting everybody steal your sales deals too.
That's true.
His uncle would like let him massage a sales deal to the last thing, then someone would swoop it and close it and take the commission.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And his uncle would be like, "Them's the break." So it's interesting because his uncle basically at this point like tries to whiplash this. Like basically be like, I did all this to motivate you.
Are you on good terms with your uncle?
Yeah.
I still love him, but I mean.
So, come on, Hasan, get involved, buddy. What the fuck labor regulations are you talking about?
An opportunity for me to hire someone and skirt some serious like labor regulations because his family.
You know, it's family. That's great. So back to the thread here with the evidence. We're not going to watch the MPEG 700 video. We've already watched that in this podcast, or part of it at least. incredibly hypocritical, in every way possible. But hypocrisy, I find a little boring. It's not at all the main focus here. So, former AFL-CIO president Richard Trumka, a famous name you might have heard, writes, "This is union busting plain and simple. I call on Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks to follow their principles and voluntarily recognize the card authorization vote of TYT union." Couldn't be put more plainly than that. Thank you, Richard. Tell everybody in your union that the guy out here needs your help. I need union help, man. The AFL-CIO again put it out. It is indeed disgusting, and so is gaslighting your audience about being one. They wrote, "Union busting is disgusting," with the hand clap emojis. So they go, "Union busting is disgusting." Fucking nailed that one on the first try. TYT union released a long statement full of evidence. Another textbook union busting tactic, they say, referring to Cenk trying to manipulate the bargaining unit in his favor. Let's read it. "The way forward is clear. The Young Turks needs to respect the choice we have already made instead of trying to pressure us out of it. Count the cards, Union Strong, TYT Live." So this is February 25th of 2020. Remember, the shit hit the fan on February 21st. That's when all of it became public. TYT union came forward for the first time publicly on the 12th, but the union busting didn't become a public deal until the 21st. So they wrote this note, or this statement. "We have officially notified the company that their election proposal doesn't work for us. We already voted," in italicized, "by signing union cards. We offered to have a neutral party confirm our majority on cards. Progressives and all the major Democratic presidential candidates agree that card check is the fair way for workers to democratically choose a union without being bullied by the boss. The Young Turks said they would only recognize our union after having us vote again," in italics, "in an election on the company's terms. TYT made no offer to remain neutral in any new election. This lack of employer neutrality is especially troubling given management's union-busting conduct in a mandatory captive audience staff meeting held on Wednesday, February 12th, reported on yesterday in the Huffington Post. Worse, TYT is attempting to manipulate who is eligible for the election, including trying to exclude multiple co-workers who share a community of interest. Another textbook union-busting tactic. The way forward is clear." Underlined here. "TYT needs to respect the choice we have already made instead of trying to pressure us out of it." That's not me talking. This is the workers talking. It's not Richard Trumka. Like someone even gave the word. See, this is an example. This person says, "You guys are strangely quiet now. Cenk's election is over. The whole thing stinks." So the Young Turks workers had to be put on defensive against TYT audience. Like, this is the thing Cenk did to his workers with this bullshit. And they answered this person with in these Times article, "The Myth of the New Republic," the myth of the progressive boss in the New Republic, and other stuff from them. And then they wrote, "Quiet? Nah, you just haven't been paying attention." This is the stuff I'm talking about. This is the thing. These people were going to work and working their asses off, and they were underpaid and disrespected. And then they had to do it while the people that were lying about them were in the same fucking room, or on the other side of a studio wall. And the workers still had to make them look good and sound good and do good graphics and edit, while their audience is out here coming up with completely bullshit things. Sahil Habibi of the Progressive Voice called the workers snakes. And he's the only one of the ethical dark web, which is the grouping that in the film that got upset about the New York Times smear. He is the only one who didn't go quiet after the union busting came forward, and he came out with anti-worker stuff.
Those employees, those 15 employees, man, y'all suck, dude. I don't know what to tell you. You guys are terrible, man. I mean, thanks for laying out all this damage for your quest for, I don't know what, you're puffing up of whatever.
Well, it's clear he actually has some really great political instincts.
You actually have some really great political instincts.
Just totally just shitting on the workers. really not okay. But my point is that Cenk enabled that. Not just enabled that. Cenk set the conditions for that. He made that happen. By attacking his own workers publicly with this bullshit lie that it was about his campaign. Because what Cenk needed to accomplish with the conspiracy lie was two things. Okay? Two things he was able to accomplish with that. This fiction that the reason the union started was as a response to him becoming a politician. That it was, outsiders that influenced his dumb workers into unionizing. So that's the version they told. One, it prevents his audience from asking the question, why did your workers unionize? So he avoids the accountability of having to tell the truth about why workers at his company secretly unionized. The reason they unionized is because they're idiots. They got tricked and they got manipulated by my political opponents. Two, it justifies the union busting by saying, this is an attack on me from Nancy Pelosi and Christy Smith, and IATSE endorsed Christy Smith at the behest of Nancy Pelosi. Anna Kasparian said in the Nomiki interview, which is going to be in the film, that Nancy Pelosi was following TYT Union.
This Twitter page pops up out of nowhere, right? And it's TYT Union, and no one had any idea what that was or, what's going on. Is this real? And one of the people following that TYT Union page was Nancy Pelosi, who very clearly despises Cenk and was doing anything and everything possible to get to ensure that Christy Smith would beat him in the Democratic primary. So understandably, Cenk's going to be suspicious of that. What is this? And why is Nancy Pelosi following it? And so he brought it up internally, and then it turned into this ridiculous story about union busting, right?
They thought they literally linked it to Nancy Pelosi directly, as if that's evidence for why this union why these workers don't deserve their rights. Come on. I wasn't able to confirm if Nancy Pelosi ever followed someone on Twitter. I don't know how to look that up. My sources said they never saw that. AOC followed them on Twitter, though. So Cenk was able to avoid having to tell his audience why his workers unionize. In other words, revealing that he's a shitty boss. And he was able to come up to justify the union busting as not as union busting, but as him pushing back against this evil establishment. And as I keep saying, I would have been fine if they needed some time to do some fact checking. If they had said, this is weird, we're suspicious, but we don't want to smear our workers, so we're going to be careful. We're going to make sure that we get this information correct before we go forward. Who do we know that was involved? Absolutely, that would lead to me. There's no way about it, because especially since I was no longer an employee. I had more freedom to talk then at that point. And I was tweeting at them when it happened. But they didn't fact check because they knew the truth. That's why they didn't do any fucking fact checking. I think in Anna's case, you could give her some grace that things were difficult and stressful and she trusted her source. I think she deserves to be called out for failing to fact check, for spreading misinformation. But I think that in her case, her loyalty to Cenk in this crazy, weird situation created this cloud. She'd already been under a lot of stress, and Cenk took advantage of that loyalty. Anna, if you need me to teach you how to edit podcasts, let me know. I'll be glad to get you up to speed. We could do any program you want. Writer of the New Republic piece, Grim Kim, posted, as a lot of writers do, they'll put snippets up of their pieces and stuff, wrote, using the "but not everyone supports it" excuse to avoid recognizing TYT Union is bullshit. Unions don't go public with campaigns until they've already reached majority support among the workers. Union busting is disgusting. Kim Kelly goes on. Staffers said their first organizing discussions date back more than 2 years, and their recent attempt to round up support began shortly before Uygur declared his candidacy. I have many criticisms of Vice as a company and a brand and a place to work and a place to freelance. She worked at Vice and helped start the union at Vice. But even they recognized Vice Union in an hour. Imagine running a lefty media outlet and being being shittier to your workers than Vice. So again, like I've been saying, Cenk has to prove that the workers that talked to Kim Kelly were lying, if we're going to believe his version of the story. Plus, someone writes, the workers don't want their company to shut down. Kim responds, yeah, like how disingenuous do you have to be to read, we like working here and would like to make our jobs a little better, as we would like the company to go bankrupt and render ourselves unemployed. And the person answered, yep. Yep, I should say, not yup, yep. Yep. I like Kim Kelly's work. I know she just had a book. Support labor journalists always. So, TYT Union posted the HuffPost piece by Dave Jameson. Workers interviewed in all four articles. All spoke anonymously out of fear of retaliation, except me. I've just gone and hobbled myself by being public about this stuff, because who's gonna I'll never get hired. It's the worst. We love the company. We're just getting the company to live by its principles. TYT Union wrote. Now here's a good example of confusion. I have not seen Atomic Elbow on Twitter. Probably had the good sense to get off of it in the last year or two. So no shade to Atomic Elbow. I've interacted with this person a few times and seemed fine, good faith. That's what I'm saying. So, but a fan of the company, and I don't know about these days, but people were rightfully confused. Atomic Elbow wrote, to any hashtag TYT Live or at TYT Army 3 following, hold your fire until we understand the totality of what's going on. Many of us support unions or are in unions. TYT have given clarification on what's happening. I'll wait to see how TYT Union and IATSE respond. So very reasonable, but I'm just pointing this out as a example of the confusion that was desired by Cenk. Like the cloud, kind of the dust, the silt being stirred up on the bottom of the river, the cloudiness that then becomes useful, because no one's really saying. I assume Atomic Elbow would probably be like, oh, wow, wait, you guys unionized because Cenk denies healthcare to people using classification? That's not cool. I'm sorry I gave you guys money every month for the last X number of years. Instead, it becomes, even a very reasonable person says, hey, let's hold off on any judgment until we know what's going on. Mission accomplished. Cenk doesn't have to necessarily completely trick you. He just has to give you a reason to put off finding any findings of any conclusive findings, right? You know what I mean. TYT Union expressed dismay about Cenk's refusal to voluntarily recognize and look forward to see their values. Here we are again, February 23rd. Let's be clear. This is TYT Union. We're dismayed that the Young Turks rejected our offer to prove majority via third-party card check, but we hope they'll come around. We're proud of the content we help make. We look forward to seeing our values reflected on the job as well as on screen. This is important, because the values that are reflected on screen are not the same as what's reflected on the job. At least that was my experience. You cannot tell me that Cenk's advocacy for health care for all, Medicare for all, single payer health insurance, or as president, he was for a public option, but he's a real big deal on the paid family leave and wage increases, and he's all about this stuff. And then you go work for him, and the first thing he makes you do is sign a contract saying you're an independent contractor, no benefits. 7 months go by, you complain. He fixes it by changing your classification to part-time, and you're working 40-hour weeks. Still no benefits. So the values that are on the job are not the same as what's on the screen. And the thing isn't that TYT is, we want them to live their we wanted them to live their values. At least this is me saying this now, not speaking for any group. They do live their values. You always live your values. You might have to compromise here and there on the way you assess your values. I think we all feel that sort of stress in this world of compromising. I sure feel guilty when I put a piece of plastic in the garbage. But TYT lives their values. They're just not at all what they tell the audience their values are. Because you can't convince me that he's a big proponent of people having safety in the form of healthcare access. If you work, in my case, I worked for him, and it took 12 months of full-time work before I was allowed to have health insurance from the company. 12 months of full-time work before I was allowed to get a paid day off. So those are Cenk Uygur's values. You know, you should at least live the values that your audience thinks they support. I wasn't looking for special anything, by the way. $21.63 an hour. I'd been having a really hard time mentally in my life at the time. I still am. Turned out I'm autistic. I didn't know that at the time. Along with a lot of the downstream kind of effects of such a thing. If you're a late identified autistic person, you probably understand, but it's been a big deal for me. And I was really struggling. I was having all kinds of weird meltdowns and struggling, and things were getting crazy in my brain. And I wasn't trying to get special treatment. I just wanted a job where I could, because I gave everything to my work. I did a very good job for them, and I just wanted to be able to feel okay and not have the stress of this second tierification, and be able to see a doctor and get paid for a day off. So I started a union. So I helped start a union, right? I wasn't expecting Cenk to live this progressive fantasy, but at least the fucking minimum of paying people when they have a day off, of allowing them to have company health insurance, or maybe I don't like taking it away, but I would have felt more fair if everybody got treated the same horrible way, right? Not that that's the argument. You get that a lot in America. Well, if I don't want that person to have it, so we both don't get it. It's like, no, everybody. All right. Labor writer, author Shawn Richman writes, this is literally the position of every union busting employer. Are you guys tired of the evidence? I'm getting tired of the evidence. I know it's a fucking drag. Here's Shawn Richman writing. So you refuse to recognize a union based on a demonstrated majority of union support. You want an election? This is literally the position of every union busting employer. This is simple. Recognize the union. And he asterisks it to say that doesn't deny their workers are employees under the law. TYT Union writes, we approached IATSE for help months ago. Here's the tweet. This is all about TYT workers coming together in union. February 21st, 2020. We approached IATSE for help months ago. TYT's response, don't even mention us. They're workers. This is about us, all caps. And TYT's refusal to grant card check and recognize our choice, not politics or conspiracies. This is a big thing here, is the kind of whole story. You really get a feeling for the lack of us in it. The agency of the workers was like non-existent. And it really feels that way, the way it's been talked about, the way it's been, the damage control that they've been doing. I wouldn't even say it, that maybe I should pull that back. Like, at least when Anna was on the Numiki Khan show, because there's very little stuff of them talking about this crap, right? But all this communication does not ever really acknowledge workers taking initiative to do something about their own workplace conditions.
And by the way, this particular union had endorsed Christy Smith. That was already on the record, who, by the way, voted in California against labor rights over and over again. So, like, of course, people who are in the know, who are paying attention, are going to be suspicious. And it turned into a union busting story. And now they're unionized, and we understood, like, by the way, I'm not even in management. I'm an executive producer, which is different from being in management on the business side of things. So I have no say in whether people get to unionize or not. And if the employees want to unionize, they should unionize. And that's what happened. They finally did. And if they're happy, awesome. But the problem that I had with the way that story played out and how it was perceived by people in indie media is that immediately, like, virtue signaling is real. It is real.
Because that would crack open the door for workers to ask them, why did they unionize? So here's the first day, February, or at least the first day it became, the union busting becomes public. I just wrote that out. And TYT Union tweeted, when we announced our decision to go union with IATSE over a week ago, we had hoped the Young Turks would respect our choice and voluntarily recognize our union. We are dismayed to report they have refused. So Hillary Agro writes, what WTF? I like Hillary. Andrew Gerald Jones writes, the latest reason why my former news organization, the Young Turks, are frauds. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, and John Iadarola need to come to support the TYT units that are being against it. And you too as well, Ryan Grimm. And I don't know Andrew Jones. That must have been a different time period. Yeah. I tweeted this chunk from the film. Starts right about here with delay, but I wanted to really dial in on the graphics here. I think these graphics are very good. I've gotten good reviews on the graphics that are in this sequence. This misleading language is designed to obscure the fact that they had refused voluntary recognition. Actual voluntary recognition marks the start of the negotiation phase, but TYT refused to negotiate because they refused to recognize, insisting instead on a new election at a later date, buying themselves time during which management would employ the array of coercive and deceptive union busting techniques. Delay is an extremely common union busting tactic. This guy here, Martin J. Levitt, he was a professional union buster for 30 years, but his conscience finally caught up to him for all the damage he did.
Everything. Delay was one of my favorite tactics. It wears you down, it frustrates you. It lays the climate for the divisiveness. It frustrates people. It's, well, you know, what good is our union? We've been trying to accomplish this for 2 years now and nothing's happened. It gives the employee relations function of the company the tools that they need to sell themselves as the real solution for the pilots or for the union members, as opposed to the union.
My smiles are just the only way my body can frown. Deleted and reposting. Had the wrong link. Okay, so I'm trying to do it again. Starting in the spring of 2018, stalling, resuming in spring of 2019, spurred in no small part to my working conditions plus other reasons, TYT Union's secret unionizing became public on what was once called Twitter. And this is their statement from the Young Turks, who decided to start the union and put out a statement. Bernie Sanders didn't really weigh in, although would love to hear from you, old burn bag. I shook your hand at the Young Turks once when you visited. Got a photo of that somewhere. Bernie Sanders, who was forced to retract his endorsement of Uygur's congressional bid 24 hours after he endorsed C-Film, lays out card check. Employers who refused should be penalized. End of discussion. Bernie writes, as president, I will guarantee this. When 50% of workers in a unit sign an authorization card, +1, they will have a union. End of discussion. If employers refuse to negotiate in good faith, we will impose strong penalties on those companies. I like when he gets quiet when he finishes a sentence. Now, you'd think that like a guy who got endorsed by Bernie, then had to unendorse with Bernie. I kind of want to watch that part of the film right now, but we're just going long. Am I still fucking recording? Yeah, okay. And you'd think Cenk would be in line with that. I don't think Cenk has the same kind of, I don't think. I know for literally completely sure that he doesn't care about workers in any sense. That besides the theoretical kind of way you do, if you're a fancy lad, the son of a rich landlord, goes to, Columbia Law School, a Wharton Business School, big pedigree for being a hotshot corporate lawyer. So you're going to get the kind of boilerplate conservative bullshit. And included in that, so in other words, expecting Cenk to agree with Bernie on all these things might be a bridge too far to ask. But this is from the March 3rd election coverage. He knew that he was lost his election by this point, I'm pretty sure. And we have our favorite hair model, Ryan Grimm, on to talk. Here's what Cenk tells him.
Look, on card check, I don't. So this is one of the issues that I'm not that progressive on. I don't believe in card check.
Not big on democracy. We got it.
Look.
So Cenk doesn't like card check. And this is a month after he's in the middle of his union busting campaign when he said that. I don't believe in the thing that if I had believed in, I would have avoided being a union buster. And I would have avoided all this. And Hank wouldn't have had to make that fucking awesome movie. Although he probably still would have made a video at least about how he was out thousands of dollars because of the classification. Now, was there support from any TYT hosts, right? The only one I could find, I kind of vaguely remember John Iadarola tweeting a fist emoji. Haven't been able to find that. John, if you find it, send it to me. I will correct the record. No problem. You know, I don't want to impugn anybody. But the only person who, as a host, besides Anna, who put out any information was Francesca Fiorentini, who I quite like a lot. I think she does a lot of really wonderful work, and her husband Matt Lieb has a great podcast called Bad Hezbollah, which is a really critical, important anti-disinformation stuff related to what's going on in the Middle East. She wrote, and she quoted on February 12th, 2020, at 9:37 a.m. She wrote this. This crew works so hard and are some of the most committed people I've met. Fist. But where you can see the thumb fist, not just the knuckles fist, the thumb one fist. So good on you, Francesca. Thank you. I wouldn't say she and I knew each. I remember talking with her a few times. Once at a Christmas party, her and her husband, and he's tall like me. I think he's even taller than me, and she's tall too. And that's why it's a good. If you're going to be tall, marry a tall. What am I saying? I just remember being easily able to converse with them at this Christmas party at some restaurant. But yeah, we weren't like chummy, I wouldn't say, but you know, she'd probably recognize me. She might know my name. I wouldn't hold it against her if she didn't. I don't expect that. It's not, I mean, I'm just, yeah, whatever. I always got good vibes though from her. So, yeah, it's awesome that she did that, but that's on the 12th. Now, I don't know when the captive audience meeting started, but Cenk held a captive audience meeting that day. That's in the Huffington Post article where he threw papers and threatened somebody. So this became, you got to imagine, this is basically telling, if you don't interpret, if you're another host, if you're John Iadarola and you're sitting there and this guy's yelling at everybody, talking about how he's being pranked, he thinks, or whatever other things he said, you're being given an order not to cover it. John's not going to go then do a story about it after the captive audience meeting. Part of what we have to understand about all this union busting and the captive audience meetings and the threatening people and the withholding raises and bonuses and the firing people is that you're threatening everybody else with those. The union busting kind of works in a sense because there's not a full union there yet. They should do that. What if that's how they respond to this project of mine here? Not that I think that's they should do that necessarily. I mean, I think every worker deserves a union and deserves to have a right to a voice in their workplace, but I'm not saying I think I'm calling for that. Might be part of the way they come out of it, but those captive audience meetings. So Francesca works remotely. She's been at the studio plenty of times, obviously, but I doubt she was there. I can't confirm that or not. So I'm just kind of speculating. As I wrote here, this is speculation. I'm figuring that her remote status likely meant she missed the captive audience meeting Cenk held that day. Only Anna tweeted, and it wasn't kind. She signal boosted Anna signal boosted the conspiracy narrative Cenk and the Young Turks official account spread. She did zero fact checking, presumably trusting her source. She expressed suspicion and called it bad faith. Nope, neither are true. It was a genuine effort. And by the way, if Anna did do some fact checking and and you want to share that with me, I will update my audience. I will correct the record. Absolutely. I'll apologize. But if you did do fact checking and you still signal boosted something that wasn't true, that doesn't look great either. You know what I mean? So this is that tweet that she wrote. And then I go in on here saying that it's justifiable that they might have been suspicious at the beginning, I guess, but not checking with original sources before spreading the boss's preferred narrative is a stark breach of journalistic ethics. Yeah. Ken Klippenstein, former TYT reporter. I never really worked with him directly other than I edited the 2019 Thanksgiving special, and he submitted a clip for that. So I might have gotten an email from him at most. He wrote, defend TYT union on the 21st. So this is when the IATSE tweeted out, Young Turks refuse voluntary. I'm going to retweet that just to see what happens. Nothing will happen. Don't worry. Today, the Young Turks refused voluntary recognition of the TYT union. This is a disappointing decision from an organization that presents itself as progressive. And Ken Klippenstein posted one word, all caps, defend TYT union. Sam Sachs, who we saw from the MeansTV reporting, does a great job. Everybody go support their YouTubes and all their other stuff. Wrote, still waiting, March 6th. So we're jumping around on the timeline. We're advancing forward a little bit in the timeline right now. He writes, still waiting on prominent TYT personalities and boosters to say one single supportive word of the TYT union. Instead, the organizing efforts were derided as a hit job against Cenk while he was running for office. Cenk got 5% of the vote. Time to recognize the union. TYT is a major news operation. It received $20 million in capital investment. The folks who work the cameras and create graphics and mic up the hosts want security on the job. Well-paid hosts who depend on them so they don't look silly on TV should be the most vocal in support. Our editing was going to cable packages. We were doing television editing for a variety for YouTube TV, for various distribution partners, and I was making $21.63 with zero benefits. Like, it's such, like, I would have been thrilled if I got it bumped up to $24 an hour. Somebody who is tangentially in the world here, I was talking with them about it, and I asked them to guess what I was making, just as a game, just like, and they knew it was low. They were fully on board with this, like, thing I'm doing, kind of, but they were like, oh, okay, all right, and they were trying to figure a low number as for a video editor in Los Angeles pay rate, and they guessed 30. I was like, fuck, man, I would have felt richer than hell if I was making 30 an hour. That would have been amazing. He writes, reminds me of previous work in TV. You meet hosts who feel they are part of a big team in which everyone relies on each other to create something. Then you meet hosts who consider themselves above the production crew. They consider themselves the talent. They're unapproachable. Anyway, hopefully some of your faves do the right thing here. See, I agree with what he's saying there. Someone says Anna blocked them for asking about it. Okay. What's he replying to there? Is there? Okay. I haven't seen any apologies. Oh, TYT Union retweeted or answered them with 3 cricket emojis. Oh, damn. 3 cricket emojis. The perfect number of cricket emojis. So we're near the end, and our snorkel journey ends. And I'm saying here, I ask you to compare this trove of evidence to the clip at the top with the caller, Hansi, where Cenk says, I am definitely not a union buster, and that there is no evidence. Let's do that. Eventually. Sorry, it's so long. Here, just the short one. So you've just seen all this. Compared to this statement from Cenk.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So,
well, there's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
what evidence? All right, brother, you've had a nice run. Bye-bye.
Okay, panic mode, gotta go. Don't want to get the truth revealed, do you, Cenk? Promote my film. You're the honesty company, right? Promote my fucking movie. I shouldn't be making demands. My only demand is, I'm just saying, if they were really truly believed in this honesty stuff, they would be telling their audience to check out my work and to see my film, if honesty mattered. But I am making a demand. Retract the story. Just do the basic journalistic repair. Nobody expects that to reach a big audience. Everybody knows corrections don't really go very far, but tell the fucking truth, Cenk. Retract the story about why the version you told your audience about how the Young Turks unionized, that it was a ploy by your political opponents, because you know that was a fucking lie. Try to apologize too, but that's why the movie's called Tell the Truth, Cenk. Like the demand I'm making is I'm not trying to hide that. All right, rough edit there. Sorry, I just realized I've already wrapped the show. Then I remembered I had some stuff. We're gonna play it right now, and so my bad. Hope this isn't too confusing. there's not much to the wrap up anyway, but I'll find a spot to put this in here. So TYT, as I've been saying, has not retracted or apologized, right? And I think I'm making a pretty persuasive case that they should. In other words, that the information they put out was provably untrue, that while they might have had a reason initially to have some suspicion, they didn't do any fact checking, and that it was in service of a politically motivated cover up and campaign, to protect the boss's political interests. So they should come out and retract and apologize. And they themselves would be the ones that tell you that they do. So I've got a couple of clips here of Cenk and Anna, mostly Cenk, but them saying how much they are for getting stories right, patting themselves on the back for doing so. And then the fourth clip will be Cenk's commitment to objective reality.
Appreciate it. KOOK said Democrats and Republicans are fair game for TYT, and if Anna or Cenk provide disinformation about anything, they will admit they made a mistake and correct it. We appreciate you noticing that we are honest. To people who actually
claims they're honest, they will admit they made a mistake and correct it. Let's prove it, guys. Come on, do it about your own fucking company here, huh? Here's Anna.
By the way, it doesn't mean that I could potentially be wrong. And when I'm wrong, I'm going to correct that error. And I've done that on the show before. Uriah Heep.
She has been making a show of her correcting stories that she got wrong in terms of her ideological shift. But I have yet to see any communication from her to her audience about being wrong about putting out information about the workers forming a union at her company. And you should. Here's Cenk again.
Greg 1118 says, so thankful to everyone that works for TYT for the truth. I know that if something is incorrect, it will be promptly fixed, and love to the best community on the internet. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate it. Yes, we actually care about truth. I know it's crazy in media these days, but we do.
Big swallow. But do you, Cenk?
For saying that. We appreciate it. Yes, we actually care about truth. I know it's crazy in media these days, but we do.
At least this is why Cenk should retract and at least attempt to apologize, because what he just said there, this is not a true statement.
It's crazy in media these days, but we do.
That he cares about truth. If you say that and then you have a record of retracting and apologizing, you could defend that argument. This is not a defensible statement as long as you have a huge freaking lie out there about your own company and your own workers, because it'll expose you for, that's the thing Cenk is afraid of. He's afraid of being exposed for the kind of boss that he is.
Yes, we actually care about truth. I know it's crazy in media these days, but we do.
Okay, now relating this to the gaslight comment. Sorry, let me say that again. Relating this to Cenk denying that he's a union buster. I've been playing it over and over. You've heard me say it. No, I'm definitely not a union buster. Here, this is from like an ad they do, and he's speaking. I feel sorry for. I shouldn't say I feel sorry for these people, but people trust this guy. They look to him for leadership. He stands there and he receives it as if he deserves to be in this position. And meanwhile, he doesn't respect his audience enough to be honest about whether or not he's a union buster, right? And then he also believes that they'll buy this bullshit line that because this union busting failed, he can't possibly have been a union buster. Incredibly deceptive. And the thing that he gets at about in this little clip here is objective reality. He's even using that as marketing.
We fight with peace. We fight with hope and belief and faith in one another. And we do that's right with knowledge and facts and truth and things that are real. Yeah. Objective reality matters. So much of our audience is scientists, teachers, engineers, data analysts, people who believe in objective reality, right? So thank you guys for believing in that. Thank you for believing in hope, and thank you for making it happen. I appreciate all of you.
Sorry, I had a little laugh, but let's listen to this.
So much of our audience, objective reality matters. So much of our audience.
Dude, come on. You're going to say that, and when you're asked about your union busting, you're going to pull some serious bullshit. What evidence? There's a lot of evidence. We just spent a fucking hour going over all of it. But what made me laugh, I thought this guy here was holding a package. I thought he had like a paper package, I just was in my brain. I just had decided he was kind of clutching it. Like maybe he got a package. He just didn't want to, I don't know, whatever reason, people sometimes have a package, but then I looked closer. It's just a part of his shirt. That's why I was like, oh, he's not holding up.
objective reality, right? So
Yeah, we do. We believe in objective reality. Do you, buddy? All right, edit back to the video because it's going to be a little awkward. I don't know where it's going to fit into, but okay. All right. So, oh yeah, wait, let's leave this one up here. We'll probably play that one again. Okay. So, I say here, you know, the usual stuff kind of, I have no reach. Please boost, please share. What Cenk Uygur did is unethical, immoral, and deserves to be called out. My hope is to connect with a journalist who wants to investigate my claims and do a full accounting of this story. It covers every facet of the labor movement and the fight for workplace dignity. Interrogate my credibility. I know I come off a bit weird. Dragon emoji. The story a powerful person lies to hide is the story that must be told. I refuse to allow Cenk Uygur to tell my story about why I unionized. It wasn't a political ploy. It's because I felt like I was being wage thefted. I wanted health insurance and paid days off. Those 20 days I didn't get paid for, $3,460. Hope Cenk bought something nice for himself. So, I've already talked about this a bit. I'll probably bring this up again at some day. In the second half of the clip at the top, Cenk insists he can't be a union buster because TYT has a union. I would love to hear other people get a hold of that. You know, somebody write about that. Like, that is some serious hogwash, man. That's why I'm saying, like, in the very most generous possible interpretation or offering of that interpretation, maybe he's not lying. But that's bullshit. I think, having seen all this, it is absolutely defensible that Cenk is lying when he says, no, I am definitely not a union buster. But I am making a distinction on that because in my case, I'm an original source on why the union started. That's why I'm confident using the word liar there. I know I say this a lot and I don't think it means anything, but like I'm sitting right where I started where I had the idea. All I do is sit in this fucking chair. But like it happened right here. When I was sitting there going, fuck this crap. I heard that story about that 2018 union effort that was very brief. It was just a couple of emails from what I know. So I know we had a contact. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to bring this up again. I don't want to just take it. I'm not somebody who just takes this shit. Frankly, I kind of wish I was. Probably saved me a lot of headache. So is Cenk saying this?
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster.
Is that a lie? Based on this evidence? Abso-fucking-lutely. Based on me not being an original source, as I am with the reason it started, you could parse this as technically that's his opinion, and that he doesn't think that this crap, that Cenk Uygur doesn't believe that this stuff is union busting. I don't know how you look at this and can this notice to employees from the NLRB. What's he afraid of? And he didn't let his company report on anything? While as a politician? It's because he's scared, man. It's because he doesn't want the word to get out. This thing with Hansi, with Scott on his Twitter, is like a big deal for the project I'm on here. Because if finally somebody forced him to say something about it. And if the progressive left isn't going to hold this dude accountable for union busting, and not just like the union busting, it's a bullying campaign. TYT union workers called it bullying. It's the intentional infliction of psychological harm on your workers to subjugate them. This is some class war shit, man. Not to mention anybody going to take umbrage on my behalf for the working conditions. So that's what I've been dialing this thing down to, is that the ethical boundaries that have been violated. There's 3 of them. Number 1 is the union busting itself. That needs to be called out. Union busting is disgusting. Union busting is an immoral thing to do. It's a really vile thing to do. It's an ethical violation that the left should hold accountable to someone on its left. If we can still consider TYT on the left. I know that's debatable. I know a lot of people have very strong feelings about that. 2, the lie. The conspiracy charge that they made against their own workers. The smear. They smeared my integrity and that of my friends about why the union started. They said it was a political ploy by the Cenk's congressional opponents. This is multifaceted, this one. This one covers deceiving his audience, lying to the progressive sphere, too, using their trust in him as a weapon to create this cloud of obscurity, this fog that makes it hard to know what's going on. And it implies very directly that the workers who talked to the journalists lied and fabricated evidence. So, Cenk, prove that. Let's see your proof that those emails were fabricated and that every person that talked to a journalist was a liar. Because that's what you call in your workers when you insist on holding on to the official story that the union was originated by your political foes. And the third ethical boundary is my employment conditions. Classifying somebody in order to keep their benefits is deeply fucking unethical. In California, felony theft kicks in at $950. Haas had Cenk on his live stream, some Thanksgiving debate, whatever, and he's going on and on about, you could just steal $950 and not go to prison.
Because no cash bail, and you're framing on this as super right wing. No cash bail does not fucking mean if you're a rapist you get let out immediately.
No, I didn't say rapist.
Or okay, if you've stolen shit you get let out immediately.
You know you do.
No, dog. It just depends on if you've stolen multiple cars and then you still are able to be on release because there's no fucking cash bail. That simply states
under
that,
$1,000, you're not going to jail, and you
yeah,
know.
Okay,
it.
well, I
that
don't
means
have.
When Haas, last thing, when you pass a law saying basically, in essence, because of pleading down and all the things we've talked about, that if you steal under $1,000, you're not going to jail. Do you agree that people will steal under $1,000 infinitely? Like that, people will go and steal shit under $1,000.
Maybe. But
100%.
But no one is stealing under $1,000 unless they fucking need to steal under $1,000.
No, you're making it seem like, oh,
that's crazy.
Jean Valjean. No,
I don't.
I know they're in tough situations,
I don't think
but a lot of people are like, let's just go get shit. You don't. That's real world.
That is insane. We do not live on the same planet.
You think they're not thinking, let's just go grab stuff?
You and I do not live on the same planet. If you think that there is like massive amounts of people who are like, let's get together. I'm a CPA. I have a job.
CPA, dude. I know that a lot of people are in tough times, but it's like you're making it sound like you think, have no other choice and they had to do it. Meanwhile, the guys
what is the other choice?
Are laughing their ass off. Going, it turns out shit is free now. Okay, like that's because you're being patronizing.
No,
you're being patronizing. Like they're saintly, and they would never do anything immoral.
No, I never said
they
were
saintly. Just downtrodden.
I did not say that they were saintly.
Yeah, of course, a lot of people are downtrodden.
No, I don't think that they're saintly.
The immoral ones are going. It turns out I could just steal shit now, and I'm going to. You don't think that's immoral?
I never said that they're saintly. Okay, I did not say that they're saintly, but I don't think that they're Jean Valjean stealing bread for their family. All I'm simply stating is that no one with future prospects, no one with adequate living conditions, no one who's making ends meet is going to be like, let me go steal $1,000 worth of shit, dog. I'll be out on bail anyway, without bail anyway, tomorrow. The only reason why there's more people that are doing that now than before is not necessarily because of the enforcement mechanism in the state of freaking California, where we have a massively inflated carceral system anyway, so much so that you have these reactionary people literally saying, I guess we can't lock more people up right now because we just literally do not have the space. They're sleeping on top of one another. It's because there's more poor people. That's it. And if you don't solve poverty, if you don't solve poverty, you will never solve this problem.
But you're not going to solve poverty overnight, Haas.
Okay. On my 20 days off alone, $3,460. If I got a full year's bonus, somewhere in here, if I got a full year's bonus, I would have gotten an extra $2,371. I worked full time the entire year, but I only got bonus for 79 days. They prorated it to the third hiring date. Those two figures alone put us at close to $6,000. This news came out in 2022, so it doesn't apply to this situation, but it is relevant to the way our society views wage theft. This is from a law firm here. It says, in California, wage theft is now a felony. When a worker isn't paid what he or she is due, is considered wage theft. Normally, we think of wage theft as an intentional act as opposed to an accidental misunderstanding or miscalculation of how much a worker must be paid. However, any wages which include bonuses and commissions can have a devastating impact on an employee. This is why it is considered wage theft. According to the Economic Policy Institute, billions of dollars in wages are stolen from workers by employers nationally every year. Wage theft is now a felony. California has strong wage theft laws allowing situations where wages are stolen to be treated as criminal grand theft, in addition to civil penalties allowing workers to sue for having wages stolen. It used to be that instances of wage theft were just misdemeanors. Now they are felonies. That means potential time in jail for employers who cheat workers out of wages. It also allows state prosecutors much more leeway in conducting investigations into wage theft. Things like grand juries or the issuance of search warrants can now be used by prosecutors seeking to prosecute wage and hour theft. The criminal penalties come into play when employers withhold or don't pay more than $950 to any one employee, or $2,350 from two or more employees in any 12-month period. Unlike many laws, this law applies even if the worker is an independent contractor, and it applies no matter how big the company or how many employees the employer has. I didn't include this graphic in the summary, but this is a good summary from the film of all the ways that Cenk did the union busting. And the sources for these are the 4 articles, TYT's posts, NLRB filings, and Cenk's own words in emails he sent to unionizing workers. You could read those on Alex Thompson's Twitter. That's like here, the emails from CEO pleading to not unionize. That's very coercive. Claims that unionization would bankrupt the company. That's in the emails. Claims that wage increases would take from other workers. That's in the emails. Those are classic union busting techniques. The only thing on this list here that's not a classic union busting tactic is publicly spreading conspiracy lies, RE, lies and misinformation, RE, boss's political career. That's why that earned a frown from Bernie Sanders. The frown of justice. So, compare that. Oh, God damn it, I keep doing it the wrong one. That's Haas saying his uncle violated labor regulations.
So I interned there, and I wanted to move to Los Angeles anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle was like, "Oh, this is an opportunity for me to hire someone and skirt some serious like labor regulations because his family." Sure. I worked at the Young Turks and I made I think my first year salary was like $21,000. Like it was under the.
That's like this.
I got money back from the government.
Your uncle was letting everybody steal your sales deals too.
That's true.
His uncle would let him massage a sales deal to the last thing, then someone would swoop in and close it and take the commission.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And his uncle would be like, "Them's the break." So it's interesting because his uncle basically at this point tries to whiplash this. Basically be like, I did all this to motivate you.
Are you on good terms with your uncle?
Yeah.
I still love him.
All right, well, we're switching it over now to this one then. You already know what you're going to hear. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're near the end of the show. I'm not going to do a rambly wrap up here, but I do want you to compare this to this.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So,
there's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
What evidence? All right, brother, you've had a nice run.
Don't bullshit me.
Come on, don't bullshit me.